Hey everybody, Scott Spreitzer here with Doug Upstone. We are DocSports.com. We're talking Friday NFL preseason football and this clash between the Titans and the Falcons. That takes center stage for us, and the Titans open a 1-point favorite in a lot of shops. The game's now pick in most. The Falcons are a 1-point favorite in a few shops as we cut this video. Total sitting basically at 38. Doug, a lot of interesting parts moving around in this one. Julio Jones, now a member of the Titans, coming home to face his ex-mates. Atlanta's new head coach is, of course, Arthur Smith, who coached at Tennessee under Mike Vrabel on that Titans staff. I'll just say this. I expect to see very little, if Julio Jones at all. Missed a lot of action last year, and he's in his age 32 season. I also expect to see a lot of ground and pound because we got a couple of coaches here in Smith and, of course, in Vrabel who love smash mouth football. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, with this one, Scott, I look at the quarterbacks. Both starting quarterbacks are not expected to play, so not going to see a whole lot there. But as you said, Tennessee likes to run the ball. Okay, that's now their offensive line will be better. They had a couple guys who were injured last year. They're coming back. They are expected to play, so that will benefit them. So I think you'll see that. When you look at the backup quarterbacks here, yikes! There's not much to get excited about on either side of either team here on this one. So, the under certainly seems to look like it would have some value. Just overall in terms of principle, though, I'm looking at this one and my initial thought, just because Tennessee is a better football team. They're more accomplished. They've been to the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. Atlanta hasn't been to the playoffs since since the year that they should have won the Super Bowl, okay, which goes back to 2017. So I think things are just going to be close to the vest. But the difference, though, for me, at least from a pick standpoint, is Vrabel has not shown a propensity to really care much about these preseason games. He's 2-6 straight up and against the spread in these games. So I don't think there's going to be a sense of urgency. His team is set. Now he's just trying to build a roster. Whereas with Arthur Smith, he's got something, he's a new coach. He wants to establish something. And with the case with any new coaches, they want to win. Okay. It doesn't matter where the wins come from, as long as they come from to get the team to buy in what they're selling. In this case, so Atlanta, they want to get stronger on the offensive line, run the ball a little bit more. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but that's their intent. Okay. Defensively, I don't think it could be. Well, the only place for Atlanta to go is up on defense. All right. So anything now, does that mean they're going to be good? No, it doesn't. But I think they'll probably be somewhat better. But in this one, the game at a pick, I just think the Atlanta seems to be the choice here because I'm just not sure of the interest level for Tennessee other than to find the right players to complement and fill out their roster.
And you got a little quarterback battle going. Yeah, you got a little quarterback battle going after the top quarterback down in Atlanta, Matty Ice. So you got a little quarterback battle going for the Atlanta Falcons after that, which I think gives them a little bit of an edge for what it's worth. You mentioned, Arthur Smith in his first season. Listen, there's 2 things that I won't do. I in week 1, I generally, now I'm not saying every single time. Sometimes you find a piece of information or a spot. But in general, I won't bet against a new head coach in his very first preseason football game. It's tough to do. And if they come off a loss, I very rarely will bet against him in week 2 of preseason. So there's that to remember also, just in case Atlanta would lose this contest. And you mentioned, again, the quarterback battle after the first stringers who might see one series, if that. It's a situation where I think it leans to Atlanta. New coach in Atlanta wants to get off to a winning start. Atlanta has not really cared about preseason, but that was a different coaching staff that they have now, and now they've got to kind of change that culture, that mindset a little bit as to that fact that they want to win football games and they want hometown fans to get excited. But listen, Vrabel's not going to show anything. So I'm with you. I lean to the Falcons in this one. And I did want to say to everybody, and I put this out in other videos, that when you do see sportsbooks dropping their limits, especially like for NFL preseason football, it kind of tells you that you've got maybe the slightest edge. And I don't, these people who walk around saying, I've got a huge edge over the – no, you don't. No, they don't. So you look for little slight edges, death by 1,000 cuts. That's what you're trying to do. There's no huge edge you have over a sportsbook. You research. you look for value, you jump on board. And in preseason football, I think there's plenty of value. Doug, I know you happen to agree with that. Like me, you were involved in preseason football. I believe you won last week, if I'm right. And also, I wanted to mention that if I can take a winning preseason out of this coming preseason that started last week with the Hall of Fame game, which I passed. By the way, I was involved in the CFL. We got our winner there in football last week on Thursday and started betting NFL preseason. But I wanted to mention real quickly that it would be 15-5 winning preseasons the last 20 years. So I do believe it's a beatable portion of the season when it comes to the NFL. And Doug, if you agree with me, I don't know, but I think there's better spots during preseason football. Not necessarily what used to be week 4, but weeks 1 through 3, which is all we have now. I think there's better spots in the NFL preseason sometimes than the first 2 to 3 weeks of the regular season.
Oh, Scott, I completely agree. I mean, in this, I go back to, so in fact, now that you mentioned, I didn't know you won 15 out of 20 years, because I'm 15 out of 19. So now you're giving me extra incentive, okay, to want to surpass your record. So step it up. But that's the whole thing here, is that there is value, okay. And as you and I have talked off the air and in other conversations, the thing here is that this isn't complicated, okay, and that's where the regular season, comes into play. There's so many more elements involved. This is pretty straightforward. You follow certain elements, and if you find they win, you just stick with them. And it doesn't matter necessarily who the coaches are. There's certain teams that have certain things that they do, which if you follow the teams and the coaches, that's just their history. So you follow those things, and you determine, like talk about first-year coaches, those types of things. You follow those things, you'll have success in betting preseason football. And by the way, that's what it is. It's preseason football, exhibition football, maybe it's even a better word. But there are things that are definitely out there that you can capitalize on, and you've done it. I've done it. I expect to do it. In fact, you mentioned the Hall of Fame game. I have never once in my life made a wager or a proclamation about the Hall of Fame game. But this one just stood out so much to me. I went with it, and especially losing week 4, because I don't know what week 3 is going to mean this year necessarily. Yeah. So I dove in, and it was right. Okay, for the reasons that I had was better quarterback depth, and that's how the game switched in the second half. So it's those types of edges that you look for. Scott, 100% agree with you.
Absolutely, and we're both on Atlanta in this one. You can shop around and find pick. That's 70% of the books at pick that I've seen right before we cut this video. He's Doug. I'm Scott. We are DocSports.com. Let's put them in the win column.